Chapter 5. Loon in the Moon. The highest point in town was in fact the church spire. It was something of a local landmark and could be seen for miles around. Jack had a hunch that Grandpa might have tried to climb up there. When he'd gone missing before, he'd often been found somewhere high up, atop a climbing frame, up a ladder, even once on the roof of a double-decker bus. It was as if he needed to touch the sky, as he had done all those years ago when he was an RAF pilot. As the church came into view, there was the distinct silhouette of a man sitting on top of the spire. He was perfectly framed by the glow of a low silvery moon. From the moment Jack saw his grandfather, he knew exactly what the old man thought he was doing, flying his Spitfire. At the foot of the tall church was the short vicar, Reverend Hogg. He had a rather obvious comb-over. What hair he had left was dyed so black it was blue. His eyes were as small as penny coins, hidden behind black framed glasses. The vicar's glasses rested on his upturned piggy nose, which he was forever sticking in the air so he could look down at it at people. Jack's family did not go to church regularly, so the boy had only seen the vicar out and about in the local town. But once he had seen Reverend Hogg carrying a crate of expensive-looking champagne from the off-licence. On another occasion, Jack could have sworn he saw the man cruising past in a brand new Lotus Esprit sports car, puffing on a big fat cigar. Weren't vicars meant to help the poor? Jack couldn't help wondering. Not lavish money on themselves. This being the middle of the night, the Reverend was still wearing his bedclothes. The vicar's pyjamas and dressing gown were made of the finest silk, and he was sporting a pair of red velvet slippers, which were monogrammed C of E for Church of England. Around his wrist was a curled, chunky, diamond-encrusted gold watch. He was clearly a man who had a taste for the high life. "Get down from there!" barked the Reverend at the old man, just as the family ran through the graveyard. "It's my grandpa!" shouted Jack, once again breathless from having pedalled so hard in his trike. Reverend Hogg reeked of cigars, a smell the boy could not stomach, and instantly he felt a little queasy. "What on earth is he doing on my church roof?" "I'm sorry, Vicar," said Dad. "It's my father. He gets confused." "Then he should be under lock and key. He has already dislodged some of the lead off my roof." From behind the gravestones, a gang of tough-looking men appeared. They all had shaved heads, tattoos, and teeth missing. From their overalls and spades, Jack assumed they must be grave diggers, though it seemed strange that they would dig in graves in the dead of night. One of the grave diggers handed the vicar a torch, which he shone straight into the old man's eye. "Come down this instant!" Yet still Grandpa did not respond. As usual, he was in a world of his own. "Rudder steady, holding on course," he said instead. It was clear he did indeed believe he was high up in the skies, piloting his beloved Spitfire. "Wing commander to base over," he went on. "What on earth is he on about?" demanded Reverend Hogg, before muttering under his breath, "This man is a complete loon." One of the grave diggers, a big burly man with a skinhead and a tattoo of a spider's web on his neck, spoke up. "Shall I fetch your air rifle, Reverend? A few shots should scare him down in no time." His fellow grave diggers snickered at the thought. Air rifle? The boy needed to think fast if his grandfather was going to make it down to earth safely. "No, let me try." Jack had an idea. "This is base over," he called up. All the grown-ups looked at him in disbelief. "Wing Commander Bunting, reading you loud and clear," replied Grandpa. "Current cruising altitude is 2,000 feet, ground speed of 320 miles per hour. I've been circling all night but no sign of enemy aircraft. Over." "Then your mission is accomplished, sir. Return to base." "Over," said Jack. "Roger that." From the foot of the church, the group below looked up in disbelief as the old man still sat on the church spire, made an imaginary landing. Grandpa was completely convinced he was behind the controls of his fighter plane. He'd even mimed turning the engine off. Next, he slid open the invisible canopy and climbed out. Dad closed his eyes. He was so scared his father was going to fall, he couldn't watch a moment longer. Jack's eyes were wide open in terror. He didn't dare blink. The old man clambered down the spire onto the roof. For a moment he stood still on the narrow peak, then without a care in the world he walked along it. But the piece of lead he had dislodged on his way up had left a dent in the roof. So just after a few paces, Grandpa went flying. Trip! No! Cried Jack. Dad! Shouted Jack's dad. Oh! Screamed Mum. The vicar and the grave diggers looked on with grim fascination. The old man slid down the roof, dislodging some more of the vicar's precious lead ties along the way. Smash! Smash! As they crashed on the ground. Grandpa hurtled over the roof's edge. Whoosh! But at that moment, without making a fuss, the old man managed to grab onto the guttering and came to a stop. His thin legs swayed in the night air, his slippers bumping against the stained glass windows of the church. Careful of my window! Shouted the vicar. Hold on, Dad! Called out Jack's father. I told you we should call the police, added Mum unhelpfully. I have a christening at the church first thing tomorrow, exclaimed Reverend. We can't be scrubbing bits of your grandfather off the ground all morning. Dad! Called out Jack's father. Jack thought for a moment. If he didn't act fast, his poor grandpa would surely plummet to his death. He won't respond to being called that, said the boy. Let me. Jack then projected his voice once more. Wing Commander! There's a squadron leader! Ah, there you are, old boy, Grandpa called down from the guttering. Jack's pretend name had now become real to the old man. Grandpa believed the boy was a fellow pilot. Just make your way along the aircraft's wing to your right, called up Jack. Grandpa paused for a moment before answering. Roger that. A moment later, he started shimmering his hands along the guttering. Jack's approach was utterly unexpected, yet it worked. You had to enter Grandpa's world if you wanted to get through to him. Jack spotted a drain pipe running down the side of the church. Now, Wing Commander, you see that pole to your right? Shouted the boy. Yes, Squadron Leader. Hold on tight and slowly slide down it, sir. Both Mum and Dan gasped and covered their mouths as Grandpa swung like an acrobat from the guttering to the pipe. For a moment all was still as he held on tight at the top. However, his weight might have been too much for the pipe. Suddenly it came loose from the wall and started rapidly bending towards. Went the pipe. Jack said the wrong thing. Was he now sending his beloved grandfather hurtling towards the ground? No! Cried the boy. Chapter 6. A runaway bulldozer. To Jack's relief, instead of snapping, the church drain pipe bent down slowly under the old man's weight. Bwong! Eventually, it placed him safely on the ground. As soon as his slippers touched the wet grass of the graveyard, Grandpa marched over to the assembled group and gave them a salute. Fall out, men! Mum looked more than a little offended. Wing Commander, said the boy, please let me escort you to your car. We'll drive you back to your quarters shortly. Jolly good show, old boy, replied Grandpa. Jack took him by the arm and led him to the family's old rusty car. As he opened the door, the handle came clean off. He put his grandfather safely in the back seat and closed the door once more so the old man could get warm on this chilly winter night. As he ran back across the graveyard, Jack heard the Reverend saying to his parents, That man isn't all there. He needs to be locked up. He is fine, thank you very much, said Jack, jumping into the conversation. The vicar looked down at the boy and smiled, baring his teeth like a shark before he takes a bite. Jack watched as a thought seemed to cross the man's mind. Suddenly, the vicar's tone of voice completely changed. Mr. and Mrs., he began again, now sounding kind and caring. Bunting, replied Mum and Dad at the same time. Mr. and Mrs. Bunting, in my many years as a vicar, I have brought a great deal of comfort to the old folk of the parish. and I would love to help your elderly relative." "Oh, would you?" said Mum, immediately charmed by this slippery fish. "Yes, Mrs. Bunting. In fact, I know an absolutely smashing place he could be sent to. It's recently opened after the previous old folks' home was accidentally demolished by a runaway bulldozer." Out of the corner of his eye, Jack caught the gravediggers smirking at this. The boy couldn't put his finger on it exactly, but he felt like something was very wrong here. "Yes, we read about that in the local paper," replied Dad. "A runaway bulldozer. Who would have thought it?" "The good Lord moves in mysterious ways," replied Reverend Hogg. "You know what, Mr. Vicar," continued Mum, I've been saying to these two until I've gone blue in the face. And Jill at the cheese counter agrees." "So you work at the cheese counter?" inquired the Reverend. "I thought I could smell Stilton." "Yes," replied Mum. "One of our speciality cheeses. Such a beautiful aroma, isn't it, Mr. Vicar? Like perfume, really." Dad rolled his eyes. "Anyway, so Jill is of the same mind," continued Mum again. "An old folks' home would be the best place for him." Jack looked at his father and shook his head, but the man pretended not to notice his son. "Is it a nice place?" asked Dad. "Mr. Bunting, I would be recommending it if it wasn't... Mr. Bunting, I wouldn't be recommending it if it wasn't," purred the Vicar. "It's better than nice. It's like Disneyland for old people. The only problem is, it's so popular." "Is it?" asked Dad, now also completely sucked in by the man's patter. "Yes, it's very hard to get a place," said the Reverend. "Well, that's settled then," said Jack. "He can't go anywhere." The Vicar continued without pausing for breath. "Fortunately, I know the matron who runs the place rather well. Lovely woman, Miss Swine, and rather attractive. I'm sure you will agree when you meet her. If you wanted, I could ask her if your dear old grandpa could jump the queue." "That's very kind of you, Mr. Vicar," said Mum. "What's this place called?" asked Dad. "Twilight Towers," replied the Reverend. "It's not far from here, just on the edge of the moors. I could call Miss Swine now and ask one of my boys here to run him straight up there tonight, if you like." The Vicar indicated his burly gang of gravediggers. "They would save us the bother," agreed Mum. "No!" protested Jack. Dad tried to steer the family towards a middle ground. "Well, thank you so much, Vicar. We'll have a think about it." "No, we won't," protested Jack. "My grandpa's never going into a home. Never!" With that, Dad started ushering his wife and son towards the car, where Grandpa had been waiting patiently. But as Jack was trailing behind and just out of earshot of his parents, the Vicar turned to him and hissed, "We'll see about that, young man."